رمضان تجلى وابتسم قبى للعبد إذا اغتنما.
Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to talk about characteristic number 27, sincerity or ikhlas. Inshallah, throughout this blessed month of Ramadan, we have been able to pray in the masjid, read more Qur'an, and just try to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, sincerity is basically asking, why are we doing what we do? Are we doing it to impress our friends? Are we going to the masjid so that everybody else is going to the masjid? That's quote-unquote the cool thing to do. Or are we doing it for the sake of Allah? Because now that we're nearing the end of this blessed month, this is where ikhlas or sincerity really comes into play. Now the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the most beloved deeds to Allah is that which is continuous, even if it is a little. So that means now that Ramadan is almost over, are we going to stop going to the masjid? Are we going to stop doing whatever we were doing during the month of Ramadan? Or are we going to continue? And this is where we really need sincerity, to continue what we started in Ramadan, or at least continue a little bit, or some of, or even if we continue half or a quarter of what we do in Ramadan, then this Ramadan, inshallah, will have truly been beneficial for all of us. Now, those of you who exercise know that from time to time, different gyms, if you play for a sports team, people do what's called a boot camp. You go to the boot camps, usually it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, depending on what kind of boot camp it is. And by boot camp, you go exercise, maybe you're during that time you're exercising extra hard. You're running maybe 1 or 2 miles extra than you usually do. And you're trying your best to get into shape. Now these boot camps, physical boot camps I'm talking about, are pretty much every gym in the valley or in America offers these sorts of boot camps. Now if you go to a boot camp and you spend $200 on it, they're usually pretty pricey, and then you leave the boot camp and you say, Alhamdulillah, I did my exercise, I did my boot camp, let me go to Dunkin' Donuts now and stop exercising. Well, you're going to lose all the benefit of that boot camp. You basically wasted $200 just to feel tired for a month or two. But if you take that boot camp, and then afterwards you continue your exercises, maybe not at the same intensity as the boot camp, but you're just consistent in establishing good habits after this boot camp, then the benefits of that physical boot camp will continue. And that applies also to our spiritual lives. That applies also to Ramadan. Ramadan for us is like a boot camp. So now, for example, if you've been reading 1 juz, 1/30 of the Qur'an every day, after the month of Ramadan, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then tell yourself, you know what, I will read half a juz, or a quarter of a juz. Obviously, if you can continue reading 1 juz every day, that would be great. But I know it's difficult for us to maintain the same level of spirituality during Ramadan. I think for almost all of us, that's nearly impossible. But let's set goals so that we're ahead of where we were before the month of Ramadan. If you used to never pray at the masjid, and now you're coming to the masjid, mashallah, every day. You're coming for Tarawih prayer, Isha prayer, maybe you're even coming for Dhuhr and Asr, and you're coming for Fajr prayer, then make it a point to come to the masjid more often, every day. If perhaps you weren't consistent in your prayers before, let's say if you hardly ever prayed before the month of Ramadan, and then in Ramadan you start praying, you're praying the 5 daily prayers, inshallah, in the month of Ramadan. Then after the month of Ramadan, then continue your prayers. Even if it's not all the prayers, just try to be persistent in whatever you're doing. Finally, sincerity comes on the day also after Ramadan. And this is my last piece of advice. Be careful not to go 2 or 3 or 1 day without practicing, either reading Qur'an or going to the masjid. Because the fact is, we are creatures of habit. And once we establish a habit, which inshallah the month of Ramadan has helped us establish, then inshallah we can continue that habit with the help and aid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on the day of Eid, if you are going to Fajr prayer at the masjid, then I really advise you to go to the Fajr prayer on the day of Eid. Find time to read Qur'an on the day of Eid, so that after Eid and for the next 12 months inshallah, we can continue on this path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To help you get through Ramadan each and every day, please check out the Mass page for your daily dose.